storage for life. Hello everybody, it's Nick McCandless here of thegameraccess.com covering E3 2014. We're here with Matt, franchise director of Borderlands. Today we're talking about Borderlands, the pre-sequel. Where are you guys taking Borderlands?
Moon.
It's awesome. I just got done playing it and there's little to no gravity. Can you talk about that?
Who'd you play as?
The guy, what's his name?
The guy.
Wilhelm.
He was the villain in Borderlands 2.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right. So this is before Borderlands 2 when he's still thinks he's a good guy, at least. He's a mercenary. He doesn't really care. Did you enjoy it? Did you play it?
I love it. Oh my gosh, Borderlands 2 is my favorite game of the year when it came out. I love Borderlands. It's like the cel-shaded look is what grabbed me. I love Borderlands.
Technically, it's not cel-shaded. I'll say that because the artists get upset. I don't care. Whatever. I understand what it means.
Right.
I'm glad you liked it. You know, the gravity, Borderlands 2, the pre-sequel, takes place between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2. I just want to talk to him about stuff, but I know people want to know what's actually going on. Borderlands 1 and 2, it takes place between, Borderlands the pre-sequel takes place between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2. And it's a collaborative effort between Gearbox and 2K Australia, because we really like those guys. They did a lot of really good work on the Bioshock series for the past several years. And it sort of tells the story of the rise of Handsome Jack, how he came to power. And specifically how he came to power on the moon of Pandora, which is a low-gravity, low-atmosphere environment. And we strove to make sure that when you get to the low-gravity environment that it feels so natural that anyone who's played Borderlands before, you almost... There's tutorials we teach you, but you don't need much before you're jumping and jetting around and taking advantage of the new functionality.
Yeah, when I played it, I needed no tutorial at all. I loved Borderlands 2. I hopped right in, and I was doing pretty good. So, game looks really good.
It should feel like Borderlands at its heart, but more so. Like, I have new levels of capability. I have a whole new plane of combat over the enemy's head. I have some new depth. I have some new equipment and new gear and new combat opportunities with my new characters. And we really wanted to make it feel like a sort of deeper, richer experience.
Now, something I think is really cool about the low gravity is being able to jump up in the air and shoot down on your enemies. It's like adds a whole new gameplay mechanic to the game. What was it like putting that into the game?
Well, one of the first things we did, since it takes place on the moon, was we had a meeting called Promises of the Moon, where we tried to figure out. It's just romantic as it sounds. It was candlelit, and we had music playing, Claire de Lune. But what we tried to do is sit down with all the guys in Australia. We flew down there for a few weeks, which was a terrible, terrible thing to have to do, is go spend weeks in Australia.
I've heard a lot of bad things about Australia.
2K Australia's in Canberra. They have kangaroo in the streets. It's so good. It's so good. But we had Promises of the Moon meeting, and we talked about it. The first thing was low gravity. The second was low atmosphere. The third one, it's cold, and then craters and moon monsters and moon buggies and spacesuits. Because it's a Borderlands game, we want to give you those promises. When we did Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, the promise was, what's the high fantasy promise? And it was skeletons and orcs and castles and dungeons and wizards and swords. And so we put all that stuff in the game. So for the Moon game, we said, okay, we have to solve the low gravity problem. So if you play games with low gravity, normally it feels like a really great promise. You jump up in the air and it's really fun. And then you come down and it's really slow. And then you jump up in the air and it's really fun and you come down. But you've played it, so you know how we solve that problem. When you're up in the air, at any point you hit the crouch button and you jet down.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, all it does is expand your options without limiting you the way low gravity often does. And that's really fun. But the other thing is, we looked at the second thing on our list, which was atmosphere. Well, we need some sort of oxygen tank and oxygen kit. But the truth is, when you run into an enemy in Borderlands, they aren't there to kill you. They're there as something that encourages you to use your weapons, gear, and skill to be cool, to do fun things, you know? Well, how can having no oxygen give you the capability to be cool and do fun things? Because it's not a horror game. We don't want it to just be a constant draining thing. This needs to be a resource for awesome. And you've probably noticed that we've found some interesting ways to solve that. Mostly, actually, the guys in Australia were tasked with how do you solve the problem, and they come up with some really good solutions. When you're in the air, if you have oxygen and you're not starving all the time, you actually there's plenty of oxygen in the world, but you can do it sudden blast of oxygen to jet forward and fly over the battlefield like in a strafing run, flying over the enemies. Or you can blast down to get a burst upward and get a double jump, or change direction really quickly. If an enemy knocks you back and you burst forward, you can come land right back at their feet, which is a really lovely moment. And one of the best is if you blast the air upwards, you can come down with the butt slam and do a nice shockwave. And once we did that, we start allowing, because it's Borderlands, that's cool, but you have Oz kits that give you strafing capabilities. When I'm in the air, I do more damage, or the jet keeps me up longer, or when I slam, I do ice damage. So just from the Oz kit, it can change how you play the game relative to how I play the game, because I might be grounded and you might be spending the entire game just in the air as much as possible, flying around like a crazy person, which is really fun.
Now, the game looks amazing, but one question a lot of people have, and that we've seen, is a lot of these big blockbuster games that are now coming out also on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Why did you guys decide to just stick to the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC?
Well, we have a really strong fan base. And fundamentally, we still have a really strong fan base there. And the second thing is, Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2 both are on that generation of consoles. Well, now we're making a game that takes place in the middle. And for us to take sort of a middle chapter in a trilogy and suddenly say, oh, no, Empire Strikes Back only exists in a completely different set of it's only a stage play. Star Wars and Return of the Jedi, you got to go to the theaters, but if you want to see Empire Strikes Back, you have to go see a musical stage play.
Right.
It seemed like it wasn't the best thing to do for the people who play the game. It wasn't the best thing to do for the fans, and we try really hard to do the best thing we can for the fans.
Okay, and as far as storage goes, how is storage involved with the development of a game in general?
The pre-sequel is being developed in Australia and in Dallas, Texas. We are miles and miles and miles away. We don't spend every day in the same office working on the same stuff. So our servers have to be able to support both teams from a great distance over many, many hours. We have to have servers that are fast. We have to have storage that is huge and dense, and a great deal of it because of all the source. I have to download the source from all my game from Australia every morning, and all the changes they made over the past 12 hours, because they're a full day off from us. So everybody at the company has to constantly be sending information back and forth, huge distances and massive amounts of information, and you really want it to be fast and you really want it to be reliable.
All right, and when can we expect Borderlands a pre-sequel to release?
You can expect it to release October 14th in America, internationally the 17th. She knows. Internationally the 17th, so soon.
All right. Oh my gosh, I'm so looking forward to it. I'm a huge Borderlands fan. Thank you, Matt. It was good talking to you, and I am looking forward to Borderlands.